Hello there, everybody. So, I just finished the third Harry Potter book, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and I figure I'm gonna do a book vlog on it because I keep having new things to talk about with this series, unlike with Song of Ice and Fire, where I kept reading them but stopped book vlogging them after the second book, because all of those book vlogs would have been the same. And this one will go over some redundant points because the same things that were annoying about the first two books were annoying about this one for the most part. For example, Snape is worse. Malfoy is worse. The Dursleys are worse, though there's mercifully less of them. This time around. Ah. The new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, Lupin, was very good, a very great character. Um, I hope he actually managed not to die, so I very much hope he appear. Actually, I hope Snape is the next Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher because then he'll not be in the books after the fourth one, which would be amazing for him to fucking be gone and me not have to read about him anymore. It's he really like. I know that I get that I'm supposed to hate him, but as I've said before, that doesn't mean he has to be insufferable. You can make him unlikable without making him annoying. Like, as it is now, all of the Harry Potter villains that aren't Voldemort himself, or servants thereof, are basically fucking cartoon characters. And they're all annoying. And I hate all of them. And I want them to not be in these books anymore. I mean, maybe I should just be happy that the Malfoy subplot in this book served an actual fucking purpose. That the stuff with Buckbeak wasn't just a plot cul-de-sac. And I mean, I am happy about that, but that she could have also done all of that with an antagonist that was well written, and three-dimensional. Speaking of character dimension, that's essentially the bad thing about, or I'll go through the other bad. Okay, two other bad things, and they both pertain to plot holes. First, Harry Potter going back with the Dursleys again. I let me put it this way. God damn, or nah. I was gonna say like it honestly, I'm not gonna accept that forever. I'll put it that way. Um, if the Dursleys are alive by the end of the fourth book, I'm going to be deeply upset. Um, and yeah, because I mean, come on, like this is supposed to be like the Harry Potter books are supposed to take place in like the 90s. Were teachers not mandatory reporters in the 90s? And don't tell me that it's different between Muggles and Wizards, because why the fuck would it be? Like, it's the same British government that regulates them both. Like, the Ministry of Magic is not a separate nation state existing conversely with British soil. It's the same government. Why don't laws that would require a school teacher to report the Dursleys' treatment of Harry to Child Protective Services apply to Hogwarts? There's no clear reason. Now, as for Buckbeak, and I'm assuming you've read the book, so I'm not going to summarize it here. Firstly, Lucius Malfoy apparently single-handedly runs the British government in these books. That's the conclusion I'm forced to come to, because he has his cronies fucking everywhere. If he has them on on the board for the disposal of dangerous magical creatures or whatever it is, he has them fucking everywhere. Like, yeah, I mean, yeah, he, like, and everyone is aware of this. Secondly, all right, so here's what I understand. It is in the nature of a hippogriff to attack anyone who insults them. That's the point, what I gathered from the book. All right, so for Hagrid is incredibly stupid to allow them near 13-year-old children. Second, how is there a hearing? Like, how is there not a policy in place about these things? Like, if an animal is recognized as a vicious wild animal, then it doesn't get put down if it indisputably would have attacked someone anyway, right? Like, if these things, like, there's no way this is the first time this has happened. So, like, I mean, maybe the issue is whether or not it was provoked. I don't know. In which case, I mean, that should be simple enough to convince them of. Except, of course, Lucius Malfoy has this implausibly large influence on life, the universe, and everything. He's basically the Lord Emperor of Great Britain. Like, the Quidditch plot, I'm not willing to say that it had a point, but at least it was good this time, whereas in each previous year it hasn't been. Everything else I ever said about Quidditch still applies. Getting down to... Okay. As for what was good about it, honestly, the book was pretty... Oh yeah, one other thing I want to say bad about it first, about Buckbeak. Alright, so, one thing that genuinely floored me, they were going to execute Buckbeak by beheading him with an axe. I'm sorry, I thought I was being hyperbolic when I said this was a cartoon. Like, how do you read that and not get spit out of the world by it? Like, are you kidding me? An axe! Like, I guess that's the best way to do it. I mean, it's a shame that they don't have some kind of magic spell that they can use on any living creature that will instantly and painlessly kill them. If only there were something like that available, some kind of killing curse that they could use for painless executions when they wanted to engage in painless executions. And don't say that it's because it's an unforgivable curse. People still fucking know it. And if we even assume that it's definitely against the rules to use it on an animal just because it's against the rules to use it on a person, like, it's also normally against the rules to chop someone's head off. If one execution method doesn't apply, then another one doesn't. And again, it's not as though they're trying to censor knowledge of the thing, because I know enough about the Harry Potter universe to know that it's not as though no one knows how to do it. Like, I don't know that it's in the curriculum, because there's no reason it wouldn't be, but I find a hard time imagining that they could actually hide the method of using the Avada Kedavra spell. And so, why didn't the executioner use that on Buckbeak? And interestingly, why didn't the police use that on Sirius Black? I mean, I guess there was no specific chance that specific time they got a good shot to. But, like, shouldn't that be their default reaction to when they need to kill someone? Like, but yeah, other than that, talk of Azkaban itself. Other than the fact that Harry Potter just got, like, pretty damn dark, honestly, with the Dementors. Okay. And here's my problem with it, and this ties back to Buckbeak. All right, so Buckbeak is manifestly sapient. Buckbeak is not an animal. Buckbeak is a person, and we know he's a person because he can understand spoken English words. And we know he can understand spoken English words because he knew that Malfoy was insulting him, which you would have to know what Malfoy was saying to do. Given that they don't give a fuck and are perfectly willing to execute a sapient creature for being dangerous, so long as they're not human, why doesn't that apply to the Dementors? Quite frankly, why haven't they committed genocide against the Dementors? If, like, the Dementors are fucking dangerous. Sure, they sort of have them under their control, but the Dementors openly don't give a fuck about their assigned duties. Not only do they, at the end of the book, it's mentioned that the Dementors attacked and tried to eat the soul of a random small boy, or at least that's what I gathered. I'll admit that I read the early parts of this book, like, up until, like, the climax, are pretty foggy in my memory because I actually read them a while ago, and then the school semester happened, and then I finished it now. But, like, what is true of Buckbeak that isn't true of the Dementors that warrants his execution but not theirs? And it can't be usefulness, because Buckbeak can fly and carry a person. He's more useful than a Dementor. In the context of everyday life. Yeah, I on some level, I appreciate the idea of, you have these creatures which essentially have to feed off of human misery, assuming you do respect sapient rights, and, of course, the wizarding world doesn't. But assuming you did respect sapient rights, you would want to find some use for it, like some way for them to satiate that need without hurting, in the most morally acceptable way possible. And Azkaban is a potential way to do that. But again, it falls apart when you consider other similar instances. Um, uh, uh, plus, um, I mean, I don't know. It's sort of annoying. I can accept, though it sort of annoys me that the Dementors seem inherently evil. That's always irritating. Um, Honestly, creatures which were inherently had the same moral and psychological makeup as humans, but had to consume the happy thoughts of others and thus do evil in order to survive. That's more interesting. And so there's kind of a missed opportunity for that. But it's a cartoon, and cartoons have to have one dimensional bad guys. I neither understand nor accept that, but I'm aware of it. And I understand its explanatory power. Um, and then finally, this is something that more so just now occurred to me than just now has been the case and has been a problem. But why is Harry still in Snape's class? And I asked that question. The angle I'm coming at it from is Snape the only one teaching potions in all of Hogwarts? How big is Hogwarts supposed to be? Like, okay, in order for there to viably be one potions teacher, then there can be no more than about 20 or 30 children per grade level. And we know there's about 7 of those, so there can be at the most maybe 350 students at Hogwarts. Maybe that is canon, or a number even lower than that is canon, but that sounds awfully small to me. And if there is more than one potions teacher, then Jesus fuck Dumbledore, transfer him! You're supposed to be the one who's reasonable! Transfer him! And if there's not another potions teacher, if there's not another potions teacher, then the school is really small. Because, or I don't know, maybe that estimate I gave a second ago, that was a little low. Okay, so let's say that there's maybe 10 periods. I don't know, there probably really is one specific number, and I don't know what it is. But if there's 10 periods, and if there's 40 students per class, then there's 400 students at Hogwarts. And 40, that's a big class size, and that doesn't appear to actually be the case. I would guess more like 20, based on the way it's presented in the novel. But saying that it's 40, it doesn't make sense for Snape to be the only one teaching a subject that's taught all 7 years. Yeah. So that means that and that it seems to be mandatory, or else Harry wouldn't be taking it. There has to be another section of that. Just by sheer logic, if Hogwarts is at all big, there has to be. Now, for what's good about it. For one thing, the climax was amazing. And by the climax, I mean more so the part before the time travel. The sort of final reveal and the plot twist, and basically everything from when they sneak down to Buckbeak up to when they're in the hospital beds. All of that was wonderful. And hey, Harry finally experienced some character development. He developed from an individual with no personality into an individual with, one personality trait. He has achieved sentience. We all knew you could do it, Harry. Ah, else. Ron's parents are idiots, apparently, because they aren't suspicious of a rat who lives to be like fucking 18 years, who lives to be like, oh, no, not 18, but like 13 years old. It would seem. I don't know, maybe they didn't have him for that entire time. But they must have gotten him like in the past 2 or 3 years for it to be plausible. And that didn't seem to be the case. They seem to have had him for quite a bit longer. I can buy Ron believing that it's because they take good care of him, like he says. I can't buy Ron's parents believing that. Because they're supposed to be fucking adults who understand on a basic level how the universe works. Okay. Else. There's a fourth Dursley now. Oh, the one Harry inflates. And really, she should have exploded in bloody doom. That would have been much better. But yeah, there's a fourth Dursley, but really there's just one Dursley. All of them. They're one character, just like they're just aspects of one character. They function as a unit, so they're effectively one character. Kind of like sort of like the Weird Sisters. The Weird Sisters are three characters, but they may as well just be one. And you could definitely replace them with one if you really wanted to. Ah. Now then, the uh, um that's oh, and of course I love that the werewolf is named Remus Lupin. They may as well have named him Wolf Wolf. Um, so other than that, I am looking forward to the next Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher because I know sort of who he is. And I'm looking forward to the next book in general. The downside is that it seems to be fucking monstrous. Like there's like it's like double the length of this one. And so I was actually thinking I might move straight on to it because the issue of getting tired of Harry Potter wasn't going to come up because of the gap in between book reading the different books, or the gap between reading the beginning of this book and the end of it. But I don't know. I don't think I'm going to actually go straight on into it. Um, I might read it concurrently with the next thing I'm going to read, which is going to be The World of Ice and Fire, which I finally have, and appears to be shorter, despite being an encyclopedia, and physically speaking, the book is like more than a foot tall and just barely less than a foot wide. I mean, it's the size of an encyclopedia. Despite only kind of being one. But the pages are bigger, but it looks like the sort of the relevant reading portion of it, not counting family trees and such. Yeah, it's 308 pages. I just looked at the end. So I'll actually probably finish this one decently quickly. Um, Likely before the end of the 6th season of the show. And then I'll either move on to Harry Potter and Goblet of Fire or Gregor the Overlander. Um, Depending on some variables. Anyways, that's about all I have to say about this book. See ya, everyone!